Madam Speaker, yesterday we woke up to a headline story that there is one lawyer who represented the county government of Nairobi in a suit involving a land squabble between the county government of Nairobi and the military. Honorable Speaker, that lawyer has been awarded 1.3 billion Kenya shillings as legal fees for a case that was involving the military and which is an arm of government or one section of government and a county government. And Honorable Speaker, the most interesting bit is that that case was actually withdrawn by consent, which tells you the county government sat down with the military and agreed to withdraw the case on certain terms. Now, the court is telling the Nairobi County government to pay that 1.3 billion Kenya shillings within 60 days. We as senators here know for a fact that when we pass the disbursement schedule for monies to come from the national government to go to counties, if you look at the disbursement schedule for Nairobi, that is the equivalent of 1 month's disbursement from Exchequer to the Nairobi County government. And then the court is telling us to pay this one individual 1.3 billion Kenya shillings in 60 days. When I was in law school, we learned that the court should not issue orders in vain. My senior here, retired Justice Mazayo, you know for a fact, it doesn't matter what you do. There is no way Nairobi County can pay 1.3 billion Kenya shillings in 60 days. It is not possible. And Madam Speaker, the reason why I was saying the committee should have gone further is because if you look at the total pending bills for Nairobi, which stand over 100 billion Kenya shillings, 20 billion Kenya shillings is pending bills owed to advocates. I can say here without fear or favor that although I am an advocate myself, lawyers in this country have abused this legal fees system in our counties to siphon money from county governments and from the people of the country, and especially the people of Nairobi. It's unconscionable because the remuneration order, Honorable Speaker, when the committee says that the bill should be charged according to the remuneration order, the remuneration order says you use the value of the property to calculate your fees. But Honorable Speaker, if a matter is involving land of half an acre or land of 300 acres, though the value of land changes or varies, the issues involved in that particular legal case, and the good thing is, Chair, you are also a lawyer, they are not different. It's the same law, it's the same dispute, and Honorable Speaker, it's unconscionable for us as legal practitioners to do what is happening in our counties. I was elected, the first time I was ever elected to anything, Honorable Speaker, was to the Council of the Law Society of Kenya in 2016. I am a former council member of the LSK. And although the conversation there is that we should not shrink the practice areas for lawyers, or that we should not try and limit the amount of money that lawyers can charge for as long as it is legal, we are abusing this system. I don't think even the LSK itself can accept what is happening in our counties when it comes to legal fees. So, Honorable Speaker, for me, this petition was a solid petition. And if you look at the feedback that has come from the county governments themselves, they're saying that the internal lawyers that are supposed to be deployed under the county attorney office, sometimes that these matters are of complex nature that require special expertise. I can assure you, Honorable Speaker, that matter that was handled by this so-called expert lawyer that is being paid 1.3 billion Kenya shillings can very well be handled by a young lawyer who would not demand this same fees, especially where the matter is resolved in the manner in which this one was resolved. So this question of expertise is being abused. I have every faith in every advocate who has qualified to be able to handle any matter, although we don't discount the value of experience. But Honorable Speaker, I insist that this thing called expertise is being misused, and it is the reason why you find counties justifying the need to hire external counsel. They are saying there is low remuneration for the in-house counsel working in counties. There is insufficient budget to the office of the county attorney. But all this would be resolved if the money that we are spending, if you took the 1.3 billion Kenya shillings that we are supposed to pay this external lawyer, Honorable Speaker, and put it in the office of the county attorney, I am sure this insufficiency of budget and the other issues would not arise. So, Honorable Speaker, I would have loved for us to agree in total with the petitioner. But of course, they will say, oh, you are cutting out external legal practitioners from business, that it is unconstitutional or it is unfair. But Chair, I hope that the JLAC committee and even the Committee of Devolution will sit down with the Law Society of Kenya, and there's a good thing that we have a very good president now at the LSK, and say there are things that are happening in our counties that are not acceptable. It is not acceptable for you as an individual. And you'll find this lawyer resides in Nairobi, he's always complaining about the state of roads in his estate. And yet he's taking 1.3 billion shillings for himself, one person. And Nairobi gets 20 billion Kenya shillings every year in terms of exchequer, Madam Speaker. How can you, as one person, take 1 out of 20 billion Kenya shillings and then you want to complain about the roads in Karen? It is not fair. It is absolutely unfair. And the Law Society of Kenya should have a conversation with its members that whereas we don't want to lock you out of county business, it is unconscionable for one person to take such an amount from a county that is struggling to buy drugs for its residents. Honorable Speaker, I want to also address, because I am a member of the County Public Accounts Committee, and although Nairobi has the bulk of the pending bills when it comes to legal at 20 billion, this question is repeated in all other counties. And we have seen examples of very simple and straightforward matters where you ask the county governor, what justification do you have to pay a lawyer externally instead of using the capacity that you have at the county government? There are questions of how those lawyers are procured, Honorable Speaker. And if you look at Nairobi, for instance, once the lawyers have gotten execution orders, the CEO of finance in Nairobi is always in the cells. They get orders to arrest her every Friday to force the county government to pay. But the county government has no money to pay these people. So even if you were to jail the chief officer for finance for 3 months or 6 months, your money will not be paid. So we have this specter of 20 billion shillings in unpaid legal bills, and it is unmanageable. I know that many counties have set up task forces to look into the veracity of some of these claims. But again, there was a court in Kitale that said it's only the Auditor General who can tell us which pending bills are payable and which ones are not payable, that those task forces that had been established by counties were illegal. Even here in Nairobi, we had a pending bills verification task force led by Kamodho Eganjo. The entire work that they did, Honorable Speaker, to tell us which bills are payable and which ones are not, was trashed by the courts. So you find that county governments are increasingly finding themselves in a very difficult situation, Honorable Speaker, because if you try to look at the veracity of these bills, some of them are admittedly not payable because of the manner in which the procurement was done. The amount of work that was done is not commensurate to what these lawyers are asking for. So for me, really, because after the enactment of the county attorney's law, many of these counties have now employed legal staff in their ranks. And even we as a Senate here, we have our own lawyers, and they go to court to defend this institution. I think there should be a sunset clause. Maybe if the Council of Governors feel that the capacity is not where it needs to be, it's not at optimum, the chair for JLAC, I would propose that we set a sunset clause, that in the next 5 years, all counties must have developed that capacity, so that you cannot give us as an excuse that you have inadequate staffing or that they don't have capacity to handle complex legal matters. For those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second the motion, but with a rider that I think we should have made more far-reaching recommendations in order to stop this practice in our counties. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations and Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights on a petition to the Senate by Mr. Laban Omosudi concerning restraining county governments from hiring law firms to represent them in court cases, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 3rd April 2025. Thank you. My dashboard is not showing me Any senators you have? Oh, okay. Senator, you can proceed. Senator Ledama Olekina.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to make comments on this very, very, very important petition. And let me thank the Kenyan Laban for having really thought about the expenditures. Some of them end up being negatory expenditures in county governments. When it comes to county government choosing to hire services of lawyers instead of hiring, or rather instead of using in-house counsel. Madam Speaker, we have over 20,000 lawyers in this country, maybe about 11,000 practicing. I'm looking at the recommendations which the committee, the jailer committee, came up with. And I think sometimes, earlier on, we were discussing the issue of conflict of interest. I think the first thing that the committee members would have done is to declare a conflict of interest and maybe recuse themselves from having to consider this matter, because that committee is made up of lawyers. So of course lawyers will be protecting themselves because they are the ones who want to be able to get brief from county governments. Madam Speaker, in Narok County we have a matter that has been dragging in court for the last 30 years. This is a matter that has to do with Olkiombo land. And to be honest with you, I don't foresee any time when the county government will ever win that matter. What will happen is that it will be a pit for lawyers to collect fees. There have been about 4 lawyers who have already benefited from that matter. And each one of them, including some, 2 of them who are senior counsel in this house, have collected not less than 100 million. Now that matter has gone, and the owner of the land, who is being challenged by the county government, won the matter, and he was awarded 30 billion by the courts. I was just having a simple conversation between 3 lawyers in this house. The retired judge, I was having a similar conversation with Senator Sifuna, a similar conversation with Senator Sigei, in terms of legal fees for any award of 30 billion if it has to be cancelled. Senator Sigei was saying, give me an instruction, just in terms of instructions, of 400 million. You know, and then let's talk about disbursements. So in total, it would end up being almost 1.2 billion shillings. Now you ask yourself, really, with our county government, Madam Speaker, do we have 1.2 billion shillings for us to be able to pay for a matter that a court has awarded 30 billion? And the answer is that we don't have it. So really, I'm looking at one lawyer, one simple lawyer. I'm looking at this recommendation and I'm saying, first, I don't believe that we've done a service to that petitioner. And you know, before we never used to debate these petitions. But now it is important that we debate them so that we can poke holes on the recommendations that are given. Madam Speaker, I think the recommendation should have been far more reaching in terms of capping the amount of money that county government can spend on outsourcing legal services. We should cap them to a maximum of 100 million. And then we use in-house lawyers, or we hire in-house lawyers. You cannot tell me, in a country where we have over 20,000 lawyers, we cannot have lawyers who can be able to argue cases better. And in fact, when you look at it, most senior lawyers use junior lawyers to do all the dirty works. And then ultimately, the senior lawyers will go, they are the ones who get paid. You know? No, maybe not dirty work, but to do the groundwork. I've corrected myself, thank you. The heavy lifting. Let me borrow that word.
Senator Ledama, Senator Mazayo feels a very urgent urge to inform you. Would you wish to be informed?
I definitely would love you to inform me. Please.
Okay, proceed, Senator Mazayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's not dirty. I just wanted to say that it might not appear to be clean, but that word dirty does not exist legally. So maybe he can use another language.
So Senator Ledama, you are requested to use a tidier word than dirty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, Senator Madzayo is my senior and also my leader. I respect his corrections. And let me use the word heavy lifting. Thank you, Senator Oroba. They are the ones who carry out due diligence. They are the ones who carry out discoveries on a matter. They spend hours and hours trying to be able to make sense of any brief that they are given. Then you find that senior lawyers are the ones who will end up getting paid 100 million for a brief. You know, as a former member of the Public Accounts Committee, and also a former member of the Public Investments Account Committee, I came across all these legal bills and how much they are. So I think, and I don't know whether we have room for that because of our standing orders, but this is a matter that I feel that we have not done justice to the petitioner. The recommendation ought to have been that we cap the amount of money that any county government can be able to spend in outsourcing legal services. That is the recommendation number one. You know, when you see, and these are some of my biggest pet peeves, Madam Speaker, when you see a recommendation that says, and Senator Sige should listen to this, because if I was the chair of that committee and someone brings me such a recommendation, I would throw it back. How can you say the county government should prioritize capacity building program for legal counsel, ensuring competitive remuneration and timely payment of allowances allocated to sufficient budgetary resources and recruit adequate staff to enhance the performance and effectiveness of office of the county attorney? Madam Speaker, when you hire an attorney to be a county attorney, you go through a vigorous process of hiring a qualified lawyer who's trained by the Kenya School of Law, who understand matters, if it is litigation, if it is conveyancing, if it is tax laws. They have gone through different processes and they do continuous legal training. So you cannot have that recommendation. A petitioner has come and he has said, please, Senate of Kenya, stop county governments from outsourcing legal services. Stop them. You cannot come and say, now build up the capacity. I think really JLAC failed there. And I don't know whether this petition can be resubmitted because we've not done justice to it. What are we going to be implementing here? After the petition, it's sent to the implementing institution or agencies. They are going to implement a capacity training for their legal practitioners. Have they turned into a law school? I mean, certain recommendations should really have some merit and some meat into it. County government should strictly adhere to legal framework governing the outsourcing of legal services and implementing strong oversight and accountability measures. Can you just read that again, Senator Sige, by yourself, even before you come here and submit it? Because seriously, we have is it called the Attorney Remuneration Act? Or lawyers, what is it called? Yeah? Advocates Remuneration Act, which clearly sets how much should be paid, if it is conveyancing, if it is litigation, if it is how much. Then how are you going to come up with a recommendation and say county government should strictly adhere to legal framework governing the outsourcing of legal services? They're already doing it. That's why they give the big cases. You know, if a case is worth 1 billion shillings, what we need to do to be able to give justice to this petition is to say, based on the brief, it should be capped to a maximum of this. If that lawyer cannot get it, get another lawyer. Out of 20,000 lawyers we have in Kenya, there are those ones who really care about the resources that we have. Madam Speaker, the amount of money we spend outsourcing for legal services in this country is ridiculous. We talk about government efficiency. We talk about making sure that we stop wastages of resources. But we are not doing it. Governors, left, right, and center, are using law firms to be able to divert resources. Is that simple? You see a simple brief. Madam Speaker, we go through this. We go through all these matters when we are looking at them. I think what should happen is that during the budget making process, county assemblies must be able to limit the amount of money that can be spent by the county government to outsource legal services. Spend more money with in-house counsel. I feel like this petition has not been given the time that it required. I feel like this petition will not solve anything. And I feel like in future, when a matter comes and it directly affects the members of the committee who are dealing with it, they should just recuse themselves and say, please, let us set up an ad hoc committee to be able to deal with this matter. Lawyers did not give this matter any service. They didn't. Madam Speaker, we look like jokes when we send out these recommendations. I don't agree with them at all. I think if there's a way, I don't know, maybe the Secretariat will be able to advise us because of the time limit of 60 days, whether there's a way for us to relook at this matter again, because it will come back here. We set up an ad hoc committee, we look at these matters diligently, so that when we give out recommendations, these recommendations are too many. I'll read another recommendation, Madam Speaker, which I totally do not agree with it. County government are advised to seek representation from external legal firms occasionally when handling complex and special legal services. What is complex? You've gone to law school. You've been trained. You've graduated. You've been trained to be able to deal with complex, simple, and even cantankerous matters. So it is not that there is a group of, or a cabal, a group of lawyers out there who are trained to deal with complex matters. Complex. I mean, seriously, you guys don't make us look like we are just a bunch of a kangaroo house that just goes with the flow. The next one, Madam Speaker, I'm sorry I'm poking a lot of holes on these recommendations, but I just find them very shallow. The Office of the Auditor General should audit the county government expenditures to identify the specific counties with exorbitant fees spent on legal services as at the time of adopting this report. Give me a break. Madam Speaker, we already know. That report is already out. Where are we trying to still just write things for the sake of it? We already know. All 47 counties, starting from Nairobi County, the amount of legal fees, we already know. The Auditor General has already done it. So if the Auditor General gets this, the Auditor General will just say, okay, give me those reports, cut and paste, boom, boom, send it. Here is a report. What are we going to do? Then what? When the petitioner submitted this petition to this house, the petitioner expected us to be able to say, county government, put a cap, maximum 50 million a year. So we know if we spend any money, it's probably about 200 million. We need to relook at this. I'm going to take about maybe 2 more minutes to finish. Then it comes at noting that some counties like Nairobi and Kitui counties have established a county pending bills review committee to verify all bills owed by the county government and ascertain their real value. The committee recommends that the county emulates the practice as a step towards management of clearing of pending bills. Madam Speaker, all 47 counties have established pending bills committees. We know that. Okay? It is not going to help this petitioner. I just feel like, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel like the committee did not do a good job in this matter. And this petition has not been given the time and the diligence that it requires. Let me stop there because my dear brother, Senator Sige, is looking at me and saying, this is very bad. So, Madam Speaker, I rest my case. I do not support this recommendation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Ledama. Senator Mungatana Danson Buya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
for giving me the floor. Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to really commend Mr. Laban Omosundi. I have never met him in person, but I know that he has been raising extremely deep questions in Nakuru town, in Nakuru County, and I commend him for bringing this issue now that affects all 47 counties before the Senate. Madam Speaker, I'm just going to make 2 or 3 points on this. The first thing is that this report has exposed 3 counties that have not yet appointed county attorneys by the end of the audit in 2024. The 3 counties are Tana River County, Lamu County, and Uasin Gishu County. These 3 counties, Madam Speaker, and let me not speak about the other 2. I want to speak about my own county. According to the Office of the County Attorneys Act 2020, Section 16, it is the only act that empowers a county to venture out and get legal services. And you are supposed to go and get legal services with the permission of the county executive, according to this act. Madam Speaker, if you look at Tana River County, it has been paying fees to lawyers, some of whom sit in this house, Madam Speaker. And if you look, they do not have a county attorney's office. They do not have consent from the county executive to pay. So, Madam Speaker, what we are saying is that the counties of Tana River, Uasin Gishu, and Lamu, if they have paid any legal fees, those legal fees are recoverable. And the top people in those counties is the governor. He is the chief executive. These people must find the money to refund the counties. And in the meantime, Madam Speaker, there should be a very strong warning that they cannot continue to contract external lawyers. Tana River County has no county attorney, and it should not be able to contract outside lawyers. What they are doing is illegal, and it must be called for that. It's not only illegal, it's also corrupt, Madam Speaker. The law requires that they must have a county attorney and a county solicitor general. So, Madam Speaker, this is the first thing that has exposed the 3 counties, Tana River County, Lamu County, and the county of Uasin Gishu. And it is wrong that they continue to get legal services from external lawyers, Madam Speaker. This is wrong, and the governors who are the CEOs in these counties must be made to be accountable. Then the big question comes, Madam Speaker. Laban Omosundi, in his petition, does not want legal services to be contracted out at all. He wants all the legal services from all the counties to be done with the legal expertise that is within the counties. Madam Speaker, I will not support that. Why? Because it should not be lawyers alone. Within the counties, services that are required include architectural services. We also need contractors, road building contractors. We also need various other water engineers and so on. Electrical engineers who do not exist within the county's capacities. So it should not be limited to lawyers. I think it should be across if this petition were to succeed the way he wanted. So then, how do we deal with excessive legal fees? Like the one that has been quoted from Nairobi, 1.3 billion. And the courts agreed to give that kind of fee to a single advocate. How do we deal, Madam Speaker, with those kind of things? Madam Speaker, I think the executives in all those counties that have problems with legal fees, that have audit queries, they have been complicit with the charging of excessive legal fees. And the solution, Madam Speaker, is not to chase all the lawyers, because even the recommendation in this report, it says clearly, in some instances, you have complex legal matters that may require the expertise of an external lawyer. And we shouldn't argue that, because that one is a given. My colleague who says that you are trained as an advocate, as a lawyer, to handle both simple and complex matters. The truth of the matter is, some people who have done land cases over a long period of time will have acquired knowledge, experience, and expertise in that area. And some of those cases can be very complex. So, Madam Speaker, I think it is good for the country to hear this, that what needs to be done is that there is a provision for agreement on the kind of legal fees that can be charged on any matter. You do not have to go by the remuneration order. You can always have an agreement on fees. So, for example, this advocate who was charging 1.3 billion for the work that actually ended in a consent judgment, a consent that was drawn between Nairobi County and the military. There could have been an agreement on the legal fees, just the way they agreed on the consent on how to finalize that matter. There could be an agreement as well on the legal fees. So the whole question is, are the executives, is the Council of Governors and the governors in this country, are they being honest? Are they being honest? Why can't we agree that for every matter that comes, there should be a proper legal fee agreement done that does not surpass a certain percentage of the budget that is available for that particular year? A previous speaker has made a very good point here, that you cannot contract something you cannot manage. You cannot say that you're going to pay 1.3 billion to one law firm, and there is only 20 billion that is available for the water, for housing, for salaries, for whatever in Nairobi County. And then you say you're going to pay 1.3 billion to one lawyer. I think the contracts must be very clear, that there should be in keeping with the budgets that are available. And the contracts for the legal fees must be such that they are agreeable to the lawyers and to the executive, or if it's the county assembly that is giving those instructions. There should be a very nicely written legal fee agreement. But we can't say, and this should be a standard for all professions. If it is the engineers, if it is the architects, if it is the land surveyors and so on, that need to be contracted from outside, or any other service that needs to be contracted from outside, people should not be left to bring their fee notes. It should be an agreement that should be reflective of what the county is receiving in terms of the monies that they get from this Senate. It should not be that the lawyers will come and bring their fee notes as they like, as per the remuneration order. It should not be that the architects will come and bring as per the Architects Act, or the land surveyors. There should be an agreement. And Madam Speaker, this is where the problem is, because county executives, the governors, they are complicit. They are always encouraging huge fee notes because they receive this money back through the back door. This is the fact. This is why Labano Musundi was complaining in this petition that excessive fee notes are being made out. And Madam Speaker, it is unfair to the counties in this country that so much money is being paid to very few people. This is wrong. But we are saying it is wrong, but the governors are in the middle of it. They are agreeing with these lawyers. They are agreeing with those architects. Madam Speaker, we sat here and we agreed that to construct an entire building for the governor's residence, the figure was given and it was standard. The designs were drawn and we agreed, all of us, that this is what's going to happen. Why shouldn't that be done for law firms? Why shouldn't that be done for land surveyors? Why can't agreements be done that are reflective of the capacities of the amount of money that are available to our counties? I think it has gone on for too long and it should be stopped. So to the extent that Labano Musundi has raised this matter through this petition, I support him. And one of the ways that we need to do, Madam Speaker, as a Senate, is to relook at the County Attorney's Office of the County Attorneys Act 2020, so that we can bring amendments to that act. It was good when it came at the beginning because it set up these offices. But we must now make it mandatory that they must follow the procurement processes for us to get the proper services, not just legal services, but all services. And Madam Speaker, we should go again and look at that act and say there should be agreements. It should be made compulsory within that act that all agreements for external services must be filed with the county attorney and must be approved by the executive and must even be approved by the county assembly, because it's the county assembly that is giving those monies out after we pass the equitable share and the other monies to the county. It is the county assemblies that approve. So, Mr. Speaker, I am sure if such a process was adopted, this lawyer who has charged 1.3 billion, there is no way that bill would have passed through the county assembly of Nairobi. And there is no way a county attorney would have sat down to sign an agreement that is committing the county of Nairobi for 1.3 billion. And as the court said, to be paid in 60 days. How is that going to happen, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, I think this is a good petition and it has raised issues. And I think the way forward is for us to amend the County Attorneys Act 2020 so that we can deal with this matter, not just for legal fees, but for all services that are contracted outside from the capacities within the county. And that way, Madam Speaker, we shall help our 47 counties. And Madam Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sotse.
Madam Speaker, I would like to support this motion that we must have a system of restraining the county government from hiring external law firms to represent them in courts. Madam Speaker, last 1 week, we were taken through a report by the County Public Accounts Committee that indicated that we have a serious fiduciary risk in our counties on the matter of external law firms that have charged our counties exorbitant amount of money. Madam Speaker, this is a problem because 22 counties, excluding Nairobi County, they are supposed to pay a whopping 30.6 billion shillings to law firms. Nairobi alone, Madam Speaker, is supposed to pay 21.4 billion shillings. And this is just money that is supposed to be paid to law firms. And Madam Speaker, this money, if it was invested in infrastructure or any kind of development, it would do a lot more to the economies of our counties. So I want to support Mr. Laban Musundi on that, on the fact that this matter has to be handled in some way. But I want to disagree with the fact that we try and restrain counties seeking expert legal services outside their county attorney office. Madam Speaker, that would be against the Constitution. That would be against the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, which provides that there must be competitive procurement where counties, for some reason, want to engage in competitive procurement. But even as we say that, Madam Speaker, this is a case of open violation of the law. If there is any county that is engaged in an illegal activity of paying exorbitant amount of money to law firm, it should be handled on a case-by-case basis, Madam Speaker, because the law is there. We have the Office of the County Attorney Act that provides various provisions on how such a matter is handled. The Public Procurement and Disposal Act is very clear on the process of procurement of services, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the advocate's remuneration order is very clear on what needs to be charged. So if there is a particular law firm or a particular county that goes outside this framework, then the law should apply to that particular county or that particular law firm. But you cannot come and say that now, because some counties are involved in irregularity, and because those who are supposed to enforce the law are not enforcing the law, then you put a restraint on this. I think that will be unconstitutional, and that it will not be the right thing to do. What we need to do as a Senate is to ensure that offices which have a responsibility to guard against misuse of funds are doing their job. Madam Speaker, I'm surprised the Controller of Budget is also crying in this report, in her submission. This Controller of the Budget is the one who approves requisitions. How is she approving requisitions which are against the law, which are against the County Attorney Act, which are against the Advocacy Remuneration Order, which are against the Public Procurement and Disposal Act? So I think we will be over-legislating if we start now telling people that we want to amend the law to manage these things administratively. Madam Speaker, I am of the view that let those who process these payments follow the law. If it is the finance department in counties, let them follow the law. If it is the Controller of Budget who processes requisition, let them follow the law. That way we'll be able to deal with this problem. So whereas I support the fact that counties have high legal liabilities, which are not well managed, and something has to be done about it, I disagree that we restrain counties from accessing external legal services when they genuinely need them. That would be against the law. And Madam Speaker, for that purpose, I want to commend the committee, JLAC, And I want to disagree with my colleague, Senator Ladama, that they did a shoddy job. I have read the report and they did a wonderful job. And if you look at the recommendation, they were balanced recommendation. They agreed on some issues raised by the petitioner, but they also gave direction on what needs to be done. Let the officers which are supposed to do their job, Madam Speaker, and let's not over-legislate on some of these things, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Sosi. When we resume this motion again, you have a balance of 13 minutes.
Aye.
Honorable Senators, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 9th April 2025 at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.